I'm director here at Club Christ, and I'm so excited to have you joining us today for our volunteer training. Let's jump in. All right, so first off, why are we here? Why do we need volunteers? Well, in Nevada, unfortunately, we know that students don't receive the best education, and we want to help change that. So Nevada is consistently ranked near the bottom of the statistics in regards to education. Recent data indicates that we're 49th or 48th in the nation in regards to the education that our students receive. 1 in 4 students live in poverty, and 1 in 2 children in Nevada receive free or reduced lunch. And at our centers, all of our students receive free or reduced lunch. 30% of Clark County students will drop out of high school, and the numbers are only worse for our minority students. 2 out of 5 Hispanic students will not graduate from high school, and 50% of African American students will not receive their high school diploma. We want to change that. 29% of 4th graders read at a proficient level, and we know that being able to read by 4th grade is crucial in order for success later in life. And so Club Christ started in 2004 by Evan Hartzell, the founder. And so our mission is to empower urban youth to transform their communities for Christ. And thank you for coming alongside us with that. So how do we do that? We have a strategy. We invest, we equip, and we launch. Invest. So we invest into our students through mentoring and relationship building, and we connect with our families through parent newsletters and different community events throughout the year, which we would love for our volunteers to join us at. We equip them with the academic skills and knowledge that they need to be successful in school. We provide them with a biblical foundation through an age-appropriate Bible study lesson. And we are excited to have you with us to do that. And we really focus on reading, and then we supplement with math as we can throughout the year. And then finally, we launch. Students will leave Club Christ prepared for a career, for college, and their calling, whatever that may look like. So, why are you interested in serving at Club Christ? Take a moment, think about it. I'd love to hear your response in the email back to me. All right, so let's get into it. Tutoring. What does it look like when you actually come to the center? Here's our schedule overview. So when the kids arrive, after they're checked in with their temperatures and making sure everything is okay, they'll either go right to tutoring or to the room with the iPads. And that's going to be where they report after they wash their hands and get their snack. So rotations are about 25 minutes long, and in between each rotation is a brain break. So this is where there's a dancing video, a question of the day, we do announcements. We encourage you to jump in and do the video with the kids. It's a lot of fun. And so our day is split between tutoring and on the online literacy lesson rotations. And our students attend the center twice a week, and that's for all age groups. And for our teens, when they come twice a week, they come once for Bible study and then once for teen leadership, in which we do different things. We work through a curriculum called Think Law to help them build their analytical skills. We may be doing team building activities and learn how to communicate better with each other, group projects, research projects and presentations, and we also have a guest speaker series for our teens. Okay, so when you're working with our students, right now, they will be bringing their Chromebooks with them, and you'll help them kind of navigate the online learning as appropriate. If they don't have anything, great, you'll work with them in their folder. And so what you see in their folder, when we go back to school, there'll be homework, ideally, but right now, they'll have sight word note cards as applicable for our students who are really struggling with reading. They'll have fluency passages for our older students and our on-grade level students. And so they read 1 passage a day. There's a total of 4 passages in the packet. So they read 1 passage a day. You'll set your timer on your phone or on your watch for 1 minute, and you're going to record how many words the student read. Ideally, their words per minute, WPM, will increase as time goes on. So you'll just do that once a day, record it, and then move on. Once a student has finished a page successfully, meaning they read all the words correctly in 1 minute, Then you can move on to the next page. And then all students will have either extra work packets in their folder, or they may have a literacy or math workbook, which you can work on them with as well. So it's all about building those foundational skills during this time. So if a kid has homework, what do? You're going to review the homework concept with them. You can use different visuals or hand-on tools. So we have whiteboards that we encourage you to use with the students, different manipulatives, so little like blocks, for instance, and the cubes, calculators to check work, but not to like complete their work with. And you always want to break it into steps. So keep it simple for the students, have them explain it back to you, make sure that they really get the concept. If they have notes or classwork, have them look at that, compare, tell me, what did you do here to get the answer? It's important for the students to be able to tell you in their own words how they got to a problem, especially in math. Do a few problems together and keep it going. We don't want them lagging. It'll get boring if they do, for both of you. Okay, so our focus on literacy. So we base our literacy program on the big 5 literacy components. So phonemic awareness, phonics, vocabulary, fluency, and comprehension. All 5 work together to ensure that students are solid readers. The first 2, phonemic awareness and phonics, are really about the skill and the idea of learning to read. And then with vocabulary, fluency, and comprehension, they're reading to learn. Kids can't read to learn if they have never learned how to read to begin with. And so that's why we're really intentional with helping our kids who are struggling, help them get to where they need to be by focusing on sight words and phonics. And so we're grateful that you are helping us with that. And so that's why we ask you every day when you're tutoring to work on the sight words and or the fluency with the students to help build those components so that they're a successful reader. So fluency is just simply the ability to read smoothly and easily at a good pace with good phrasing and expression. And this develops over time as students' word recognition skills improve. And so fluency is important because students who lack fluency skills, they read slowly, often one word at a time, with long pauses in between words or phrases. They make frequent mistakes. They ignore punctuation, or they read in a flat monotone voice. And that really affects their comprehension because they're taking so long to read that they're forgetting what they've read. And so then they get to the end of the passage and they're like, oh, this took me 5 minutes. I don't even know what this was about. So that's why we work on fluency. With sight words, those are the note cards that you'll have, and we base those words that students work on based on the assessments that we give them 3 times a year when they enter the center. So all the words that they have in their folders are words that they actually missed when we tested them. So they're going to need a lot of practice in different ways of learning those words. And these are words that they need to learn by sight because they don't follow regular decoding rules. It's like have, does, give, been. The kids can't sound them out, so they need to just know them automatically. Comprehension. So what does comprehension look like? According to the National Assessment of Educational Progress, reading proficiently in 4th grade looks like this: demonstrating an overall understanding of the text, drawing conclusions, making inferences, identifying details to support answers, and then also being able to connect to what they read. And so when you're reading with students, ask them questions. If they're reading a book to you, ask them like, hey, what just happened in this story? Have them retell you in their own words, which is super important so that we know that they've actually read it, processed it, and can verbalize it to you. How do you create confidence in students when you work with them? That's a question we get often and one thing we've really thought about. So you want to always keep your expectations high. You want to help them achieve at their highest level, knowing that looks different from student to student, and that's going to look different even in the rotation group that you have. So you may be working with 2 students at once. Their achievement level is going to look different based on where they are. So you want to help them at their highest level, but always high expectations. Our students rise to the expectations that are set before them. So we create a center that encourages a family atmosphere. So we want to make sure that students know one another's names, and we also want to make sure that they know your name and you know their name. Celebrate diversity. We don't tolerate put downs at all. Provide various ways for engagement, so helping the kids, maybe ask them to go get something, giving them some responsibility. And especially if you're working with our teens, giving students the opportunity to form their thoughts and decide what they want to say. So having them prepare ahead of time in a small group discussion, for a small group, just giving them time to process before they actually verbalize it to you. So the other part of the rotation is our online reading program. And so all students will spend 25 minutes a day engaging in an online reading program on an iPad. You'll see this photo is a little outdated because we have the desktop still, but thanks to some grants and some awesome funding, we have all iPads now for our students to use. Practice makes perfect, so how do we know what we do works? Well, in September 2018, only 58% of our students, our K through 6th graders who engage in the elementary program, were reading on their grade level. By May of that school year, that number increased to 81% of students reading on or above grade level. And it's because of our volunteers who are so consistent and so faithful and follow through with what we ask and who believe in our students, people like you, that our kids can achieve these great results. And overall, 72% of our students improve their reading level. That is huge, especially in this season. All right, so working with students. Student interactions. We're going to talk about our COVID-19 guidelines. So first, you always will complete the checklist with our center director. They'll ask you, do you know anyone who has been recently tested, or do you have any symptoms? And we'll also take your temperature just to make sure. Face coverings are always on while in the center, worn properly, covering your mouth, covering your nose. And this also goes for our students. Safety first for everyone. And if you've been potentially exposed or kind of not feeling well, tested positive, always 14 days off just in case. We wash our hands, we sanitize everything at the beginning, the middle, and the end of each day. Okay, so appropriate touch in this season, we're really careful of what that looks like. Side hugs and high fives are okay. However, in the season, we're still, distancing, so no. But ideally, when we get back to normal times, if you will, the side hugs and high fives are okay. Open door. You never, ever, ever close the door to a room when you are in with a student. Always leave the door open and always be visible. Outside activities, we love when our volunteers have ideas to mentor our students, our teens, outside of center hours. So this may look like a fun activity at your church, a sporting event, a concert. We're open to any ideas that you have. Always check in, though, with your center director. Keep your money. Never give your money to students, even if they ask. And also, never purchase anything from them. For example, candy for school, even if it's for a legit fundraiser. Praise. So when you're working with our students, it's really important to praise them. Their desired ratio is 3-1. So 3 praises for every 1 correction that you may give students. You always want to be specific in your praise. You don't just want to say, hey, Johnny, good job today. You want to say, hey, Johnny, I noticed how you really listened well and practiced your sight words. I can see that you're improving. I'm so proud of you. Such a difference. We always want to give as much control as possible to the child while still ensuring the desired task can be accomplished. So during tutoring, we don't really care what gets done first. So if the student kind of is, in a mood, you can say, hey, Maria, would you like to work on your fluency, or would you like to work on a whiteboard with your math work? Let Maria have the choice. We're happy either way with what she decides. She doesn't need to know that. She's going to think she's in control. So would you rather? Do you prefer? Either of those work well. Behavior is a 3-step process at the center. So here are some discipline tips. 1, you always want to position yourself at the same level or lower than the child. You never want to be standing over them, towering, while you're trying to discipline them. That's just not setting anyone up for success. Talk in a quiet and calm voice, even if you feel frustrated. And then there's also something called plain ignorance. Don't give specialized attention if the student is purposefully acting out. Sometimes our kids will do that just to get attention. So by ignoring it, it goes away. Sometimes. Now, you always want to remind the student of the rules or the inappropriateness of their actions if those steps haven't really worked. So you want to be sure to explain why their action was not okay, remind them of the consequences, and encourage them at the end of the conversation. I'm sure you won't do this again because you are such a leader. Or I'm sure you won't do this again because you are a great role model to the other students and to your younger siblings. So again, remember the 3-to-1 ratio, praising, some kind of positive affirmation. Now, if that didn't work, you or the center director will speak to the student privately to have a conversation with them. Repeat the steps from the reminder, and then if they didn't listen, they're going to miss out on a portion of a special activity or lose their free time privilege on the iPad. And you always want to talk about how the student can handle the situation differently next time. So if you're upset next time, what could you do? And work through that with them. And it's really important that if someone's feelings were hurt, that there are apologies made. Now, if that still is not changing a student's behavior and they're just having a really off day or just not with it, we're going to send the student home. This is always kind of a last resort because we know it's so crucial for our kids to be in the center. So the student will be sent home with a letter describing what happened. Their parent is going to have to sign that letter and return it to the center director in order for their child to return. This just helps us to let the parent know what happened that day and to build in that parent accountability and the parent communication. And then expulsion is the final step if all other interventions fail. And what that looks like is a couple months, a semester, or if needed, for a year. Thankfully, we've very rarely ever had to reach that step. Okay, safety. So, safety and emergencies. The code word is Napoleon is here. So if the center director communicates that to you, then you should kind of perk up and think, oh, there's something happening outside in the community that's making it a little unsafe right now for anyone to be outside. So in this case, the center director will lock all the doors and inform each adult of the situation. Students will move into rooms away from windows and doors. You want to remain calm and help keep the students engaged in the activity. We don't want anyone freaking out. We want to keep it as normal as possible. And then you'll just wait for further directions from the center director. And then no one would be released from the center until all the clear all has been given by any proper authority who may be there at that point if said situation has escalated outside of the center. Evacuations. So if there is an emergency and we need to exit the building, you're just going to safely and calmly guide the students out of the building. You're going to meet in the courtyard, and your center director will show you exactly where that is on your first day. Roll call will be taken to make sure that everyone is there. Medical. So if there's a medical issue, call 911 as appropriate, right? And then only ever give as much medical assistance as you are qualified to give. So if you can only give a Band-Aid, give a Band-Aid, and that's okay. And then you, or if it needs to be a student, inform the center director. Let them know what's going on. Keep the injured student calm and ask all uninvolved students to move to another location away from what's happening. And then you'll complete an incident report. This is a paper document that is found at the center. Threats. Thankfully, this is not something we've had to deal with, but we want to go over it because we always know it could be a possibility, right? So if you see a weapon, calmly clear the other students from the area and immediately tell the center director. If you hear that a student has a weapon, you're going to treat the situation like they do have a weapon, and you're going to let the center director know, who will then handle it from there. Now, unfortunately, we're going to talk about child abuse and neglect. We are mandated reporters, and so this is very important that we know what is required of us as a staff at Club Christ and as a volunteer here. So child abuse is when a parent or caregiver, whether through action or failing to act, causes injury, death, emotional harm, or risk of serious harm to a child. 28% of children are abused. Children under the age of 5 are the most vulnerable. 1 in 10 children are maltreated, and 1 in 5 girls will be sexually abused. Those are sobering statistics, and they're so sad and awful. But we need to be aware of them because this is a reality. Perpetrators report that they look for the passive, quiet, troubled, lonely children from single parent or broken homes. And those are the homes that we often serve and see in our communities. So what are some risk factors for children who are more likely to experience abuse? Domestic violence in the home, drug abuse in the home, alcohol abuse at the home, or if the parent themselves was a victim of childhood abuse. Children from low-income homes, again, those are all the kids that we serve, are at 3 times the risk. So we really need to be hyper aware of this. So abuse. Listen to your instincts and report to the center director immediately if you feel something is off. It's important when you're engaging in a conversation with a student that you don't ask yes or no questions. You just allow the child to talk. Long pauses are okay, and you want to count to 30 in your head before you say anything. What are some warning signs? Unexplained injuries, drastic changes in behavior, and we often pair you with the same student, so you'll be able to notice, hey, Marlon is usually like this. Now he's kind of acting like this. What's going on? Any of the risk factors are present in their home. If they have PTSD symptoms or medical complaints such as headaches, stomach aches, nightmares, panic attacks, if they feel anxious, if they express any of that, those are warning signs. When the student seems finished with it, let the conversation be over. You can use these statements as guidelines. You've been different, and choose how they've been different. Sad, angry lately. I'm concerned about you. Can you tell me more? And just let them answer. You could also say, I noticed you have a bruise. Tell me more about that, and just see what happens. After you have this conversation, you'll also complete an incident report, and you'll be in communication with the center director as to the next steps as to whether to call CPS or file an online report, and we will handle those on a case-by-case basis. But it is always so crucial that you communicate directly to the center director as soon as you can. So our last part, faith-based. We are obviously a faith-based organization. And so what does that mean? So we have our age-appropriate Bible studies, as I mentioned earlier in the training. Parents can opt out of the Bible study if they choose, and that's okay. Thankfully, though, most parents want their child in Bible study. So we encourage you, as appropriate, of course, pray with the students, share Bible studies, share parts of your story, invite the kids to appropriate church events, always checking with the center director first. All right, so now what are some expectations we have of you as a volunteer with our organization? We ask that you arrive 15 minutes prior to program start time. That will just help you get ready for the day. The center director can review anything with you, keep you updated. You're just ready to start. We recognize that emergencies arise, but please, as possible, always inform the center director at least 24 hours in advance if you're unable to make it. That way we can try and fill your spot and make sure that we have enough volunteers for the day. Keep your phones away. Focus on your work with the kids. Obviously, if you have to look something up, Common Core math can be super crazy sometimes. We have to figure out what we're doing. Totally get it. When you do your fluency passages, you're timing the students, so you need your phone. But you always just really want to be focused and engaged while you're there. And have fun and build relationships with the kids. They're awesome. Laugh, be silly, enjoy it. So contact information, you have my email. On the email back to you, you have the number of your center director, you have their email. Save those, and make sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram so you can keep up with all that's happening at Club Christ, at your center, at the other centers, and in general. Would love to keep you involved in that way. All right, and that's it. Thank you so much for watching this. We're grateful for you. Looking forward to having you be part of our center and for making a difference in the lives of hundreds of Las Vegas youth. Thank you.